everyone, how are you doing today? I wanted to talk about 4 of the books that I've read this summer so far, and just give you a little mini review of each one. But before I do that, I did create a survey for the viewers of this channel, and if you could just take a moment to fill that out, that would be awesome. It's only 4 questions, but it would really help me improve the channel. That's in the description, and again, you don't have to be a subscriber to fill it out, and all answers will be anonymous. So the first book I wanted to talk about is this French novel called Malacroix by Henry Bosco. This is a mid-20th century novel by a writer who lived during a very interesting time. Bosco lived from the late 1880s to the 1970s, so he saw a lot of changes during his lifetime. He was also a pretty well-celebrated French author. He was nominated for the Nobel Prize a few times, and this book, Malacroix, actually won a prize. Not Nobel, but a different one. This was a buddy read with Blage, one of the original subscribers to this channel. And I think our overall thoughts were that this book had some beautiful writing, absolutely stunning prose, great concept, but the second half of the book was pretty disappointing. So what's it about? It's a novel that takes place in the early 1800s, and it follows this young man who has recently inherited a house from his uncle, whom he has had very little to do with before that. So he goes to this island where he's to claim his inheritance, and he meets a notaire who helps him read the will and understand the terms of his inheritance. But there's something fishy going on with the notaire, and there's also a servant named Balandrin who has kind of a mysterious life going on at the island, or at least that's how it appears to the narrator. As you can see, there's lots of sections to this novel, and there's only a few chapters, really, probably less than 10. The beginning was very good. The imagery, which plays heavily with the elements of fire, water, and earth, and I'm not sure if air was one of them, but there's a lot of symbolism with those elements, and also some mythological references. Where the novel really started to fall apart was the last third, I believe, where he introduces a female protagonist that really has very little to do in the story, and the ending was extremely strange. I don't think it was a must-read. The next book I wanted to talk about is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I had done a review of Yes to Life a few weeks ago, and I did go back and read this again. The first time I read it was in 2014 when I was still a college student, and so it was neat to go back with the experience I've had since then. This is a 2-part book. The first part is his memoir, Frankl's memoir of being in concentration camps during World War II. And then the second part talks about his theory of logotherapy. I guess not really a theory, but more of a process for helping people come to terms with their lives and find meaning in them, especially if they're going through some hard times. I thought about doing a full video on this, but honestly, I would just encourage you to check it out. It's a fairly quick read. It is a heavy topic because it deals with the Holocaust, but Frankl really brings out the human relationships in the concentration camps with, the guards, with fellow prisoners, and he views all of this from his perspective as a psychiatrist, which is very interesting, and it's kind of a picture of the world in miniature, and you can really learn a lot from this and apply it to your own life. So Man's Search for Meaning, definitely worth 2 reads. The Abolition of Man by C.S. Lewis. Now, Lewis is an author who is kind of hit and miss for me. I picked this up because we have a box set of these, and I just thought I would go through and read all of them. I think I've read one of them before, but anyway, some of his most famous nonfiction. The Abolition of Man was recommended to me by a coworker as being the thesis or the nonfiction version of That Hideous Strength. For those of you not familiar, That Hideous Strength is the third book of his space science fiction trilogy, and it deals very much with the modern world and a dystopian takeover of this English village. So this book, I was expecting something of the same topic in here, and really he does talk about his belief of objective truth and it being a universal thing throughout all different cultures. He really uses Taoist terminology, so he calls this universal truth the way. I felt like this book was very academic though, and it was very hard to follow and very dry, even though it's such a short book. There's a lot of Lewis fans that really enjoy this, so if you like Lewis, check it out. If you don't like it, or if you don't like his writing, you could give it a try. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but I did find a very cool video of somebody who sketches some of the concepts in this book as they're reading it, so I'll link to that in the description in case you want to check that out. Last one here is The Rings of Saturn by W.G. Sebald. This author is one that I came across in a very random way. I was watching this unboxing video of some books years ago, and this was one of the books that was unboxed. I never got around to reading him until the summer, so this was another buddy read, and I think we spent 3 to 4 weeks on this. It is a very rich book. It's written as a travelogue. There's a lot of history in it, World War I and World War II history specifically, though he also goes back to like Napoleonic Wars and ancient China. So he does cover a lot of ground historically, although very much focused on World War I and II. It's kind of, I mean, there's a lot of history, like I said, but there's also psychology and sociology. He talks about relationships between people, relationships between people in time, and his own thoughts, feelings, and memories as he's walking through England and visiting old houses, reading about people, meeting people, remembering people. It's a very compelling book, and I guess I would liken it to some of the digressions in Moby Dick, but this is even better because at first it seems random when you're reading it, but as you go on, you start drawing connections between the different things he's talking about, and he does the same thing. So the novel progressively creates those connections between various historical lessons and memories and people he meets. It's kind of hard to describe, but I would definitely recommend it if you like those kind of introspective books. And I think it's another great book for summer, just one of those books you can just sink into. And I definitely recommend reading it with somebody, however, because there's a lot that you might miss if you're reading it by yourself. So that's all I had for this video. Let me know if you've read any of these, what you thought of them. I'm currently reading The Alchemist, and I am still wanting to get back to The Razor's Edge by William Somerset Maugham. So those ought to be coming up soon, but we'll see. I also just have this sudden urge to stop everything and read the Master and Commander series by Patrick O'Brian. It keeps calling me, so we'll see. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great week ahead, and I'll see you in my next video.